Jeremiah chapter 15. This chapter has painful prayers and lamentations of the prophet. It comprises the following: 1. The destruction of the wicked, verses 1 to 9. 2. Jeremiah's first lament, verse 10. 3. God's response to the first lament, verses 11 to 14. 4. Jeremiah's second lament, verses 15 to 18. 5. God's response to the second lament, verses 19 to 21. The uselessness of intercession for rebellious Judah, verse 1. Then said the Lord unto me, Though Moses and Samuel stood before me, yet my mind could not be toward this people. Cast them out of my sight, and let them go forth. Several times before, God had told Jeremiah not to pray for the people because their fate of judgment and exile was already certain. Jeremiah chapter 7 verse 16, chapter 11 verse 14 and chapter 14 verse 11. Adding to that previous thought, God said that even if Moses and Samuel, the great men of intercession, Psalm 99:6, were to intercede for Judah, it would not change their fate. Moses changed the destined judgment of Israel through his prayer. Exodus chapter 32 verses 11 and 12. When Samuel prayed, the people were rescued from the Philistines. 1 Samuel 7:9. Cast them out of my sight and let them go forth. The prophet is to dismiss them since intercession is now in vain. Judah will face its appointed and righteous exile out of the land. The four forms of destruction, verses 2 to 4. God said in verse 1 that Judah should be cast out of his sight and be sent forth. Now, God, in a jeering, scornful manner, anticipated this question from the people: Whither shall we go forth? Jeremiah was to tell them that they would each go to their appointed judgment. 1. Some will go to death, that is, death through plague or pestilence. 2. Some will die in battle by the sword. 3. Some will perish through famine. And 4. The remaining will go to the captivity. There would be no good ways to die. There shall be different sorts of punishment inflicted on them according to the nature of their transgressions. Verse 3 says of four forms of destruction, which would be the four instruments of God's justice. 1. The sword to slay. 2. The dogs to tear what is slain. 3. The fowls of the heaven to feed on the dead carcasses. 4. The beasts of the earth to destroy all that the fowls have left. It seems as if all creation had gathered against judgment-ripe Judah to not only slay them, but to further humiliate and dishonor their dead bodies. Verse 4 shows the truth and justice of God. Manasseh, the son of Hezekiah, was one of the evil kings in Judah. The name of his pious father Hezekiah intensifies the horror and the wickedness of his son Manasseh. Amongst all other evil kings in Judah, there was something so horrific about the sin and rebellion of Manasseh that made judgment inevitable and irreversible. Manasseh was now dead, but the effects of his sin still remained. The history of Judah tells the story of Manasseh's great sin. 2 Kings 21 verses 9 to 17. 1. Manasseh shed innocent blood till he had filled Jerusalem from one end to the other. 2. He made Judah to sin by teaching them idolatry, which was evil in the sight of the Lord. Because of Manasseh's sins, God will cause them to be removed into all kingdoms of the earth, that is, not only to Babylon, but scattered into other countries as well. Woe upon the widows, verses 5 to 9. Speaking through the prophet Jeremiah in verse 5, the Lord asked Jerusalem to consider if anyone else ever cared for them and their coming tragedy. The implied answer that no one cared for them shows the miserable and pitiable condition of the people. Verse 6, Thou hast forsaken me. Ironically, Judah rejected and rebelled against the only one who cared for them. Instead of progressing, they had gone backward. The whole nation had reverted to idolatry and paganism. I am weary of relenting. Rebellious Judah was almost blind to her sins, but long-suffering God had held back his judgment against Judah for a long time. Though God was patient, Judah failed to realize that God would become weary of them and be patient no more. Failure of justice had made Judah withdraw further from God. God was weary of relenting. Verse 7. And I will fan them with a fan in the gates of the land. That is, the entrance and exit to the land, which were places of public justice, will be the threshing floors for winnowing. When God winnows Judah and Jerusalem with a fan, they will be scattered and driven out of the land through all its outlets in every direction into exile. God will bereave them of children and will destroy his people, since they return not from their ways. In verse 8, Jerusalem is personified as the mother of the young men. The mother has borne valiant champions, but the spoilers, that is, the Babylonians, will come against her at noonday. Usually, this hottest part of the day is when military operations were suspended and when armies rested. The Babylonians coming at noonday means that they would come unexpectedly and suddenly. God mentioned that there will be an increase in the number of widows during the destruction and judgment of Judah, because many men will be slain in battle and exiled. Sand of the sea is a poetic plural of a countless number. Psalm 78:27 and Job chapter 6 verse 3. Verse 9. She that hath borne 7 languisheth. Bearing 7 children would normally be considered a sign of great blessing. It signified a perfect and complete family. 1 Samuel chapter 2 verse 5 and Ruth 4:15. Now, even that fruitful woman became feeble. She had given up the ghost, or her breath departs. No life can be kept in her. She faints away at the calamities coming on her. Her sun is gone down while it was yet day. The expression is extremely strong and denotes a sudden change from the highest dignity to the lowest abasement. In the midst of her prosperity, she is reduced to a state of misery. It would be as though the day of her rejoicing ended at noon, that is, the time when the Babylonians came. Her sunshine disappeared at noon with the death of her sons by the sword. She would have no heirs and comforters in her old age. So, she will be ashamed and confounded by the great judgment of God. Jeremiah's personal woe. Jeremiah's first lament, verse 10. In considering the severity of his message, Jeremiah thought of the great woe he himself bore. Like Job, he wondered if it would be better that he was never born. The woe of Jeremiah lay primarily in the fact that he had to deliver God's message of judgment to the people. So, his work as a prophet was filled with strife and contention that seemed to be set against the whole earth. Yet, every one of them doth curse me. This is one of Jeremiah's most moving confessions. Though Jeremiah had no personal cause of quarrel with the people, he was complaining of loneliness, the hopelessness of the nation's situation, and his own difficulties weighed on him. Promise of help, promise of exile. God's response to Jeremiah's first lament, verses 11 to 14. Verse 11. The Lord said, Verily it shall be well with thy remnant. Verily I will cause the enemy to retreat thee well, in the time of evil and in the time of affliction. In this perplexity, the Lord comforted the despairing prophet by assuring him that he is watching over him for good, for he and his remnant are the hope of the future. He promised Jeremiah, both personally and as a representative of his people, that he would not be utterly forsaken in the exile. God would give him favor in the eyes of the enemies. This was literally fulfilled. Jeremiah chapter 39 verse 11 and chapter 40 verses 3 and 4. Nebuchadnezzar had given strict charge to Nebuzaradan, his commander-in-chief, to look well to Jeremiah, to do him no harm, and to grant him all the privileges he was pleased to ask. Verse 12. Shall iron break the northern iron and the steel? Northern iron and steel were the finest quality iron in the 7th century BC, and they came from the Black Sea region. The weapons of Babylon were made with this strong northern iron and steel. There are 3 interpretations for this verse. 1. The powerlessness of Judah to resist the titanic strength of the Chaldeans. 2. An assurance of comfort and encouragement to Jeremiah that Judah would not prevail against Jeremiah, who was made an iron pillar and brazen walls against them. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 18. It means that iron Judah cannot break brass, that is the brazen wall Jeremiah. Brass is a strong and harder alloy made of copper and zinc. 3. Jeremiah's intercession for the people would not be able to save them from their strong enemies. Verse 13. Thy substance and thy treasures will I give to the spoil without price, and that for all thy sins, even in all thy borders. The enemies of Israel were to have an easy victory. It is to be understood prophetically of what God has irrevocably determined to do. That is, 1. God would give Judah's treasures and invaluable property away for free to her adversaries, implying that God did not value them or regard them anymore. 2. The cause of this contempt is Judah's sins. 3. This spoiling of their treasures in all her borders is justified by Judah having committed sins in all the borders of her land. In verse 14, not only was the judgment and conquest of Judah certain, but they also would be exiled from their land into the unknown land of their enemies. The punishment that was predicted is about to be fulfilled. For a fire is kindled in mine anger, which shall burn upon you. Meaning, the wrath of God, which was kindled by their perverse wickedness, will continue to burn them until it had destroyed them. The painful prayer of the prophet, Jeremiah's second lament, verses 15 to 18. This is the prayer of a man in bitter grief whose human nature cannot at present submit to the divine will. Jeremiah asks the long-suffering God that he should not be let to be taken away into captivity. Jeremiah's appeal to God has the following. 1. He appeals to God to remember him and take revenge on his persecutors because he feels forsaken and checkmated by his persecutors. Verse 15. 2. He reminds God that he is called by his name, and because of his love and respect for God's divine word, he found and ate it. 3. He protests his loneliness and his being left out of the assemblies of the mockers. Psalm 1:1, because God has filled him with indignation. Verse 17. 4. Jeremiah feared that God might not be faithful to him. He asked, "Why is my pain perpetual and my wound incurable which refuseth to be healed?" Jeremiah echoed the sentiments of Christ on Calvary. My God, why hast thou forsaken me?" Verse 18. The words express a bitter sense of failure and disappointment. 5. Having hit the very depths of despair, Jeremiah was even tempted to believe that God, the fountain of living water, Jeremiah 2:13, had become to him a liar because he feels that the waters have failed. A promise to protect the prophet. God's response to Jeremiah's second lament, verses 19 to 21. Verse 19. Therefore, thus saith the Lord. The divine voice within makes a dramatic answer to the passionate complaint. If you return, then I will bring you back. God promised Jeremiah that despite the current rejection and the coming crisis, there remained a promise of restoration. If he rejected the temptation to regard God as uncaring and unreliable and continued to take out the precious from the vial, he would continue to be a spokesman for God. If thou take forth the precious from the vial, that is, the precious metal Jeremiah, who is chosen to be holy, should be willing to come forth from the dross of human passion. Let them return unto thee, but return not thou unto them. God instructs the prophet to keep his ground and not to go over unto wicked men. The people of God would return to him, but he must not move from his place to accommodate them. Verse 20. And I will make thee unto this people a fenced brazen wall. If Jeremiah remained steadfast in his position as God's prophet, God would make him strong and unconquerable as a fenced brazen wall. This was promised to Jeremiah when God first called him to his office. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 18. By repeating again, God confirms that he would not be a liar to him. In verse 20 and 21, the promise of deliverance is expressed in three significant verbs. 1. Save. 2. Deliver. 3. Redeem. Verse 21. And I will deliver thee out of the hand of the wicked, and I will redeem thee out of the hand of the terrible. The hand of the wicked, that is, the wicked Jews, Zedekiah and his courtiers who imprisoned him, and the desperate patriots who ultimately assassinated Gedaliah. Jeremiah chapter 41 verses 1 to 3. And I will redeem thee out of the hand of the terrible, that is, out of the power of the Chaldean armies. Though God said he would take care of his prophet Jeremiah in the coming crisis, it did not mean that the fate of Judah would be changed. God's judgment would surely come against Judah. As Jeremiah was promised, he was not carried into Babylonian captivity. Jeremiah chapter 15, questions and answers.